Live! Not from the studio audience. It's the I'm Clifford Today show. Man. All right. Let's get this show on the road. There is a delay in my monitor, and it's a little distracting, so I'll try not to let it get to me. But all right. So pilot episode, I guess. Episode number uno of the I'm Clifford Today show. And I gotta say, I'm nervous a little bit, honestly. But I'm excited at the same time. I've never done a live stream like this. I've never done a show like this. But I do think it's like the next logical step in what I do. This is only my, I think, fourth venture into starting a podcast. Fifth, depending on what you count on. A few years ago, I started a podcast. I was probably around 20 or 21. You're echoing really bad. Okay, hold on. Let's try to fix that. Okay, there's going to be some... Wait, what do I... Okay, that shouldn't be... Hold on. Technical difficulties. Going to fix that. Hello? How's that? Someone let me know if that works. Why do I have two? Anyways, see why I'm so nervous about this whole thing? I have Lisa. She's watching the show, monitoring it for me. So hopefully that fixed it. But anyways, I started a show called Up Close with Isaiah a few years ago. All better. Okay. Woohoo! All right, first episode. All right, this is great. So Up Close with Isaiah. I started it when I was in school in Nebraska. I was doing master's commission, and if you don't know what that is, it was or is. I actually don't know if it's still running or not. I think there was a bit of controversy that they were dealing with a while ago. But it's a discipleship schooling program for people wanting to learn more about ministry or get deeper in their relationship with Christ. And so anyways, I was doing that, and I was living with 3 other guys, and got bored, I guess, and started a podcast because I wanted to talk to people. I figured maybe people wanted to hear what I had to say, which it was a terrible show. I only did like 4 episodes, and they're actually still out there on SoundCloud because I didn't know how to actually upload a podcast by myself, and I still don't, technically. That's why Anchor does it for me. Sponsored. And it was so unprofessional because I didn't know what I was doing. I had a really cheap mic, the same mic that I used for some of my old videos that you can find circa 2014 before. It wasn't even a terrible mic, but I didn't know how to talk into it. So like this mic that I have right here is SM7B, you know, the classic podcasting mic that everyone has. You have to talk directly into it like this, or else this is what I was doing with my old mic. But with that mic, it sounded even worse. It sounded like the mic was at the other end of the room. And so that's what that sounded like. And also, I was in the middle of my apartment, and my roommates would be around, which is kind of what I wanted. But to the normal listener, is just a dude talking to his mic and other random dudes interrupting, which was fine with me. I wanted to talk to other people. Sometimes I would have people intentionally on the show because I'm so uncomfortable by myself, as you can tell. But so yeah, they're out there on SoundCloud. It's called Up Close with Isaiah, because I used to go by my middle name, Isaiah. And Close is my last name. So now you have all my information out there. And that was the play on words, Up Close with Isaiah. And then after that, I think I stopped doing it because SoundCloud has it so that you can only upload so much before you have to pay for like SoundCloud Pro or something. And of course I wasn't into that. And so I kind of stopped. And then my second venture into podcasting was actually Podwood Forecast. Some of you may actually know about it because I talk about it all the time. But that was our first time. Hello, Nick. I'm going to be interacting with Livestream, by the way, for those who are listening on the show after the live stream. So please interact with me. Which, by the way, for those of you who are on the live stream, I'm trying to do like a Q&A sort of segment. Lurking and driving. Oh, please don't be driving while watching this. If you have any questions, I'm gonna try to have a Q&A segment at the end. So if you have any questions, put it in a comment in the chat of the live stream. Preface it with like a Q or like question, semicolon, and then the question. We'll see if we can get something going. If not, if you have questions for me, just leave it in the comments. If this is after the live stream, just leave it in the comments the same way that I described. Put question and then the question, and we'll answer it in the next episode in a couple weeks. So I'm going to keep reminding you guys about that. Oh, by the way, shout out to John Bartman, johnbartman.com. He that's where I stole the the intro theme to. I didn't steal. It was free. But shout out to him if you want to check out his stuff, johnbartman.com. So yeah, anyways, we started Podwood Forecast with Mitchell a few years ago, quite a few years ago. And it actually started, we actually re-released our pilot episode, and we explained the whole thing. We started it out as an official band podcast, which our band was Sherwood Forest. And so we wanted the podcast to be all things Sherwood Forest band related. We only did a couple episodes, and I think we stopped kind of for the same reasons that I stopped Up Close, SoundCloud. We didn't know how to upload podcasts any other way, and we already ran out of room, and we might have lost interest at the time. We got too busy or something. But we did actually get busy, because we started my third venture into podcasting, Talk the Pulse, which was someone else's podcast. Someone else had a blog, a music blog that was focused on local Illinois music. And we decided we wanted to take it over. And what we did was that we interviewed local artists and talked about local music. It was a bi-weekly podcast, and it was a lot of fun. We didn't get paid to do it, but it was just fun to do for a while. And we did it for a long while, I think for over a year, I think. And then we kind of started, I think we got a little burnout and a little busy. I started my first full-time job in the ministry, and so I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. But so we quit Talk the Pulse, and we decided we just wanted to continue podcasting, but talk about not just local music, but talk about what we wanted to talk about, which is so not niche. And we restarted Podwood Forecast, and it's still going. And if you want to check it out, it's out there on all podcast platforms. And we just talk about things that we like, including movies, music, TV shows, video games, whatever we feel like talking at the time, whatever we feel like talking about. So, and now I'm starting this, the I'm Clifford Today show, which is the next obvious evolution in my podcasting journey, because there's video and there's a live stream, and I'm not used to that, and we'll see how this goes. I just thought, I'm not really uploading consistently to YouTube because I don't have a whole lot of time. Whatever video that I'm working on, it takes up a lot of time. And so it can be a couple months before I upload another video. And I know consistency kind of helps with the YouTube channel. So I thought this could help, but also, not just for analytics purposes, but I thought that this could be fun because I like being unplugged and unfiltered and being able to talk about whatever is on my mind rather than waiting a few months to record what I'm thinking about. So I thought that this could be a good outlet for that. And that way I can also talk about things that are more relevant, I guess. Maybe I can talk about whatever big thing that recently happened in contemporary Christian music or Christian entertainment, whatever. But it could be a good chance for me to connect with you guys and stay connected. So we'll see how this goes. By the way, let me know what you guys thought about the intro video, because I know it's kind of weird and random and kind of Adult Swim kind of influence humor. But let me know if you're like, I think it's kind of weird, honestly, a little too random. So just let me know. And I appreciate the feedback. And the I'm Clifford Today show, that's how it's said, because it's obviously a play on words, a play on the Today show. If you can't already tell, I'm not stealing the Today Show logo. I am well within my rights of fair use because it's parody, and parody is protected by fair use. So if is it NBC that does the Today Show? I don't even know. I never watched the Today Show. I just know that it exists. So if NBC or whoever it is that owns the Today Show want to sue me, then just know that I'm protected by fair use. But yeah, the I'm Clifford Today show, that's how you say it. Not the I'm Clifford Today show. It's I'm Clifford Today show. I don't know. I guess I think I'm clever and funny. Hopefully you guys think so. But okay. What else is there before we go into our main topic? Once again, Q&A at the end of the show. If you have a question for me, just leave it in the chat. Preface it with question, semicolon, and whatever the question is, and we'll try to have a Q&A segment. Trying to think if there's anything else that I need to address. Okay, let's just get into it. We're talking about Winston Marshall, and a lot of this news is actually a little old, but I've been wanting to talk about it for so long, and I thought that this was going to be a good opportunity to talk about it. And I wanted to preface this by saying I I want to clarify this podcast, this show, is not going to be a political show. But, big but, sometimes it's going to come up. And I intend to be honest about the things that I believe. I mean, this show is welcome to everyone, whatever side of the political conversation that you're on. But I'm just letting you guys know, this channel is obviously not going to be focused on politics, but those things are going to come up because apparently politics affects a lot of things in our life, especially music. It tends to come up a lot these days. And I also think that this topic is pretty important to talk about. I also wanted to say that this podcast is not a theological podcast. It's not. I'm not Todd Friel of Wretched Radio, or I'm not a preacher. But again, another big but. Those things are going to come up, especially when we're talking about Christian music. And again, I intend to be honest and talk about what I believe. And I'm going to have some opinions, both in terms of like religion and politics, that you may not get down with, but that's perfectly fine. I want this to be like an open kind of a thing. I just want you guys to know what you're getting into. I don't want anyone to be surprised when I talk about these things. I want you guys to know what to expect with me, just so that my audience knows, and there's no surprise or anything. And I hope to be respectful and for you guys to be the same. So please don't make fun of me, and please don't be mean. And that is particularly relevant to today's topic. There's a lot of stuff like that involved with this story. So, Winston Marshall, I'm going to talk about this for a little bit, and then we're going to go on a break, and then we'll come back. Winston Marshall was the former banjoist. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Banjoist / guitarist for the band Mumford and Sons. And this happened a few months ago. But again, I wanted to talk about it. It happened a few months ago, and you guys all know that it's no secret that I'm a Mumford and Sons fan. I made one whole video dedicated to some new music that Mumford and Sons had released, and I know I've mentioned them a couple times in my show, not my show, and my videos, and I've talked about them a lot in the Podwood Forecast. And you guys might be wondering, like, well, what do Mumford and Sons have to do with like Christian music? Because I'm the Christian music guy, of course. Which, yes, but I also want to talk about other things. I won't branch off too far, but this is about the farthest that I'll branch off. Because I know Mumford and Sons, they're not a Christian band, but members of their band are Christian. I don't know about all of them. I know Marcus Mumford himself is a devout Christian, and it turns out that Winston is also a Christian. So that's kind of the bridge that I have created and justified to be able to talk about this. And I wanted to share my opinions about all this because, spoiler alert, I stand with Winston. And I'm going to talk about that. So, if you guys don't know what happened with Winston Marshall, I'm going to tell you. Sorry, I may be rambling. I'm going to try not to. So actually, I wanted to, before this whole thing with Winston Marshall happened a while ago, it was before the release of their last album, Delta. So it was more than a couple of years ago. I can't remember if it was Mumford and Sons who posted it or if it was this other person involved, this other party, but posted online there was a group selfie of Mumford and Sons with Jordan Peterson. And it just kind of came out of nowhere and people weren't expecting it. And so the internet reacted the way that it does. It turns out that some of the members of the band were fans. I know Winston definitely was, but I'm not sure how many others. But it doesn't matter because they posted a picture with him. He was in town and they invited him to visit the studio. And so they took a picture with him and they posted it online. And no one was the wiser of what would have happened. Because it turns out that Jordan Peterson is a very controversial figure. Now, me personally, and this will probably give you an idea of what kind of things I believe, I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. Me and my girlfriend are reading through 12 Rules for Life. I think he's got a lot of good ideas. And I think it doesn't really matter what I think, but I think a lot of the hate for him is unjustified and people don't really fully understand him, but it doesn't matter. They posted a picture with him and people tried to cancel Mumford and Sons because Jordan Peterson is apparently some sort of white supremacist fascist or something like that, which is ridiculous. And I don't think Mumford and Sons were expecting that. The internet made a whole hubbub about it. There were headlines, and no one really said anything for a while. Mumford and Sons never responded until they were promoting their next album, Delta. And they wanted to address it, I guess, and they kind of apologized. They didn't retract anything that they did, but they just were like, hey, we're sorry if anyone was offended by it. Our intention was not to offend or distress anyone. And they also had to say the whole, like, we don't believe everything he says. Which, yeah, anyways. They tried to stamp out the fire so that they could promote their album. So, yeah, that was their attempt, and that was that about it. They probably thought, no one's ever going to mention this again. Until, I believe it was summer of last year, 2021, Winston had been active on social media, and he'd been posting stuff, posting books that he'd been reading and such. And one day he tweeted praising a book called Unmasked by Andy Ngo. And what the book is, I actually haven't read it, and I've been intending to read it, just to get a grasp of all the things it's talking about. But basically, what Unmasked is about is talking about Antifa and the extremist violence that radical leftists are capable of. And so that, of course, is a dicey thing. And Also, Andy Ngo is not a popular. He's also a controversial figure. He's a journalist, and he journals about stuff like that with like Antifa and such. And people don't like him because he brings attention to people who commit crimes. And so they don't like it, and they call him a fascist. And so, of course, when Winston tweets about in support of this, praising this book, basically, he probably had no idea what was about to happen. He tweets about it, and everyone freaks out. And the internet blows up, and it's like big headline news. And that was the big event that happened. That was the controversial event. People are going crazy about it. I even saw it myself online, people commenting, tweeting at him. And I was a part of a Mumford and Sons fan group, and the fans were talking about it. And it was to the point where I had to just leave that group, unfortunately, because people were upset. And nothing came of it for a while. I don't know how many days it was until Winston posted publicly about the event. He sort of came out with an apology. Basically the same thing they did about Jordan Peterson, which, by the way, people were bringing up. I saw people in the comments being like, well, of course Mumford and Sons is like a white supremacist fascist group because they're friends with Jordan Peterson. So, like, of course, their apology from a couple years ago wasn't enough for people to forget, because that's what apologizing does sometimes. So anyways, Winston comes out with an apology saying, I had no idea that people would react like this. I apologize to anyone that I might have offended, yada, yada, yada. And he says that I'm going to step down for a while. Not permanently, but he says, I'm going to step back from the band for now, which the band wasn't doing much anyways, because like everything with COVID was still happening. So, I mean, in fact, Mumford and Sons haven't toured or performed live since before COVID, honestly. Not in a live band, whole band sense. So yeah, he steps down temporarily from Mumford and Sons, and no one hears anything from him for a while, until one day. And we're going to talk about Winston's comeback, Winston's break of silence. After this break, I apologize to keep everyone hanging, but we're just going to take a few minute break because in the podcast, this will be the ad break section. But we're going to come back to this. We're going to talk about this because it's important. And all you guys watching on the live stream, you can go get snacks or something, hug your mom, do whatever you would usually do within the span of a few minutes. But we'll be right back after these messages. And yeah, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Hope everyone's still here in the live stream. We got a few people. Hello, everybody, to all you little people out there. Don't worry, I'm little too. I'm right there with you guys. All right, so Winston Marshall. Back to that. Winston Marshall breaks his silence. He writes an article, a sort of essay, talking about how much he loves the band. In fact, let me pull that up. He posts an article with the title, "Why I'm Leaving Mumford and Sons." And of course, that's an eye-catching title if there ever was one. I mean, I was fearful of it while waiting for him to say something. But yeah, he starts off the article just talking about how much he loves the band and basically letting everyone know that there is no hard feelings with the band. He's always loved being in Mumford and Sons, one of the best experiences. And just talking about all the wonderful memories they had together. And then he's like, who in their right mind would willingly walk away from this? It turns out I would. And as you might imagine, it's been no easy decision. He then kind of recaps everyone on the recent events with the tweet about the book. And all the whole crazy reaction that followed. He says, despite being four individuals, we were in the eyes of the public a unity. Furthermore, it's our singer's name on the tin. Which is true, Mumford and Sons. That name was being dragged through some pretty ugly accusations as a result of my tweet. The distress brought to them and their families that weekend, I regret very much. I remain sincerely sorry for that. Unintentionally, I had pulled him into a divisive and totemic issue. Totemic? I think I said that right. Why did I apologize? He quotes Alexander Solzhenitsyn, says, rub your eyes and purify your heart and prize above all else in the world those who love you and who wish you well. In the mania of the moment, I was desperate to protect my bandmates. The hornet's nest that I had unwittingly hit had unleashed a black-hearted swarm on them and their families. I didn't want them to suffer for my actions. They were my priority. Secondly, I was sincerely open to the fact that maybe I did not know something about the author or his work. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, Churchill once said. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. And so I listened. I spent much time reflecting, reading, and listening. The truth is that my commenting on a book that documents the extreme far left and their activities is in no way an endorsement of the equally repugnant far right. The truth is that reporting on extremism at the great risk of endangering oneself is unquestionably brave. I also feel that my previous apology, in a small way, participates in the lie that such extremism does not exist, or worse, is a force for good. So why leave the band? On the eve of his leaving to the West, Solzhenitsyn published an essay titled Live Not by Lies. I've read it many times now since the incident at the start of March. So that's when it was, March, not summer. It still profoundly stirs me. And he who's not sufficiently courageous to defend his soul, this is the quote, don't let him be proud of his progressive views, and don't let him boast that he is an academician or a people's artist, a distinguished figure or a general. Let him say to himself, I am a part of the herd and a coward. It's all the same to me as long as I'm fed and kept warm. Winston goes on to say, for me to speak about what I've learned to be such a controversial issue will inevitably bring my bandmates more trouble. My love, loyalty, and accountability to them cannot permit that. I could remain and continue to self-censor, but it will erode my sense of integrity, gnaw my conscience. I've already felt that beginning. The only way forward for me is to leave the band. I hope in distancing myself from them, I am able to speak my mind without them suffering the consequences. I leave with love in my heart, and I wish those three boys nothing but the best. I have no doubt that their stars will shine long into the future. I will continue my work with Hong Kong Link Up, which is an organization that he is involved in. And I look forward to new creative projects, as well as speaking and writing on a variety of issues, challenging as they may be. And that was it. And he still continues to speak out and write. And I totally understand. There actually was a while where I was upset because I thought if the band really wanted to stand by Winston, they would let him stay in the band and stand behind him in what he was saying. Maybe not agree with him, but at least support him in his right to speak freely on the things that he believed. And then Winston would be able to stay. And then it turned out that the band actually did want him to stay. I can't remember where I saw that. It was probably in an interview, but they wanted him to stay, and they were going to support him and allow him to, still say what he wanted to say. But it confused me that Winston thought that the best idea was to leave the band. Because I was like, I was thinking it's not really helping them by leaving. But then I realized, I'll listen to the rest later. Got practice, Nick. All right, fine. No, that's totally okay. This show is going to be available to all. It'll still be up on YouTube, and it'll be up on all podcast platforms that I know of. So, totally okay if you want to tune in later. But anyways, I can understand the kind of person that Winston is and the issue of self-censoring, because I'm like, why would you feel like that you have to self-censor if the band has said that you can still be outspoken about these things? And I realize, he's talking in the article about protecting his bandmates, and that there is that self-guilt, that self-responsibility, that like, yeah, I know that you said that you want to support me in what I want to say, but you're still going to be hurt. And I don't want that. But at the same time, I don't want to have to self-censor myself. I want to be able to speak freely without having a guilty conscience that I'm hurting my friends, my bandmates. And so I finally understand. It took me a while to understand. But I do now. Especially after hearing, Winston's talked about it a lot in interviews, and I wanted to show a few clips. I've got a lot of clips, and I hope it's not too much for you guys. But here's a clip of Winston talking about the aftermath of what it was like after he posted the tweet.
Have done it. Or maybe, would I? I don't think I'd have done it. If I thought this could happen. No.
So you were surprised by the reaction? Before posting that tweet, you didn't think this could be trouble?
No way. It was just completely bizarre. I couldn't. It was unfathomable. Well, with hindsight, one sees now, oh yeah, okay, so it turns out Antifa and far left extremism is one of those hot button issues. But I didn't. I certainly wouldn't have done it if or maybe would I? I don't think I'd have done it if I thought this could happen. No, I definitely wouldn't have done it. I'd much rather be in a rock and roll band than this. Lovely as this is. You have extreme activists who then, you know, pile on, and they pile on not just on Twitter. They change my Wikipedia page to say fascist. They then go for your friends with similar sort of behaviour, and it gets quite scary, particularly when your friends don't know what's going on, and it seems like if they don't know the topic, it's a topic that it's quite hard to understand, perhaps, given that it's so niche. So the kind of word game was that word game is because it was against Antifa, anti-fascist. Yeah. Therefore, two negatives make a positive. It must be pro-fascist. Exactly. That was sort of the argument, wasn't it? Apparently.
Yeah. That's how it is sometimes. By the way, please bear with me with all this video stuff. It is very new for me. But I totally, well, I can't imagine what it was like. I have also had my gullible moment. I had my light switch moment when it comes to this kind of stuff, when it comes to coming out publicly with beliefs that you have and being totally unaware that people may be upset about it. I've had those experiences, but it was just on Facebook with, you know, a few groups of people. And I remember that being overwhelming. You know, having to deal with a bunch of people, you know, either calling me names or trying to talk to me, trying to debate with me. And it's just kind of overwhelming. I can't imagine what it was like having hundreds of thousands of people watching you. You just posted a tweet not thinking that it was controversial at all. And I've had that. It's like, oh wow, I didn't think that, like, what is going on here? And you feel like you're going crazy. And he probably felt that. And I can't imagine what it was like for him and for his whole band, all of a sudden to be getting all these tweets and responses. I'm sure there were a lot of DMs happening. It was probably a lot to deal with. And they're all like, Winston, what did you do? So yeah, I can imagine the, you know, whatever he was going through at the time. But here's him talking about it for more. I think he's talking about the apology that he eventually came out with in this clip.
It's happening. It's blowing up. I guess all the band are getting calls. Everybody's upset. And
yeah, there's like threats. So radio stations saying they're not going to play the band. Several artists, some of whom we've worked with, libelously accusing me of endorsing fascism. So it wasn't just activists. It felt like the music industry more widely.
So at that point, what are you thinking? What are you worried for? It must be quite frightening.
Well, my priority in that moment is my bandmates, and who are, you know, my best friends, and not only on a personal level, but also as well as myself. They've worked incredibly hard to get the band where it is, and even, you know, bands are a bit of a miracle. You know, the stars have to align for them to succeed. So it's not just hard work. It's just it was, you know, incredibly fortunate to be in a band that's successful, particularly if that's what you love and that's what you want to do. And so I wanted to I respected that in them, and I wanted to protect them. And I was also open to the fact that perhaps I didn't know there was something I wasn't seeing. Perhaps there was something about the author or the book that I didn't see. I mean, thinking back, I wouldn't say I agreed with everything in the book, but there's nothing in the book that's bloody fascist, or anything close to that.
But you sort of doubt yourself in the midst of the maelstrom.
Yeah, you absolutely doubt. If everyone is challenging you, the reasonable thing to do is to go, okay, well, maybe I...
Yeah, by the way, for those who are watching, there is, on my end, there's a bit of audio delay with the video. I apologize if that's happening for you guys. I don't really know how to fix that. But, anyways, I mean, you can at least hear what he's saying, so that's what's important. But yeah, that's kind of what happens when you come out with a controversial take and people get mad. And it's not just fans and like normal people that are responding, but the whole music industry, you know. And we'll talk more about that later because he talks about gatekeepers, as they're called. But that's the kind of pressure that... No audio delay for me. Okay, that's great. I don't know why it does it for me. So yeah. It's a whole big, just like tidal wave of a domino effect. And it all just comes from one little tweet. And that's what happens. It's crazy. And I totally get what he's saying about the, you know, you have all these people telling you that you're wrong. A natural response is, well, maybe I am wrong. I didn't really expect a reaction this strong. Like, am I wrong? Did I do something? Are you going to tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong? She came down in a bubble dog. Sorry, if you know that reference, then that was for you. But yeah, you're like, am I wrong? Did I do something? And you feel like you're crazy. Either you're crazy or the rest of the world is crazy. And you're like, what? And you have to go back like he did. Like, is there something that I missed? And I love how he's like, there's nothing in the book that's bloody fascist. So yeah. So yeah, no, that wasn't about the apology. I think the next clip is about the apology, and we'll watch more of that.
I came to the conclusion after over a few months really digging into it and looking at that my original tweet where I called the journalist brave, and I said the book was important. I think that's a perfectly reasonable tweet, and over a period of time, particularly actually in that period, the journalist was attacked again. My conscience was really ill at ease, and I felt like I'd been participating in a lie. Not that that was specifically a lie, but after a while I felt that way. And furthermore, I thought, well, that apology now is to my name. So whatever work I do, whatever songs I write in the future, whatever I write, like if I write prose or anything, whatever I create, I feel like that might take away from that work a little bit, because, you know, art or creation is the pursuit of truth, and that's a wavering. Or it wasn't when I made it, but it felt over a period of time that I can't have that on my record.
So you felt that these were big forces and had somehow in the midst of that moment had brought you to do this thing that you then regretted? Is that?
Well, yeah.
We're just going to keep watching. I just wanted to say, I wish I looked as good as Winston does with a shirt parted like that and with the chest hair and everything. I wish I looked that good, but let's continue on.
Certainly people with dissenting voices, it's costly to speak out. If you work in Hollywood, everything is the gatekeepers. So if you're an actor or an actress, if you want to get to an audience, you have to get through producers, directors, financiers. It's all gatekeepers. In music industry, it's like half gatekeepers. If you take an example like Morrissey, who, in my opinion, has expressed opinions beyond the pale, like support of For Britain, which is like anti-Muslim party, and he got dropped from his label, I think this year or last year. So that's the gatekeeper for him. But as far as I understand, he can still sell tickets. People want to see it.
Is that not true of you as well? I mean, do you feel like the majority of Mumford and Sons fans were upset, or was it the gatekeepers in your case?
I think that there are other musicians who were critical of me, and very rude and libelously so. Like I said, radio stations, and there's definitely repercussions for the band. So that's why I felt it was unfair for them to suffer as a consequence of what I said.
So you feel like actually these gatekeepers you talk about, so they're bookers who would put you on the radio, or people who would get you a front cover of Rolling Stone magazine or whatever.
Well, the music press is another thing, which another good example, because I think that they're an important example of gatekeepers, because that's a good way to get to a big audience when you've got a new album or whatever you're trying to get it out there. And they are almost entirely pretty left, and so whenever I'm going to get interviewed by music press again, or if I'd stayed with the band, this story would come up, and it would be a negative story. So it's like that's also unfair for the band, for them to have to suffer that because of something I think.
This sort of gatekeeper class exerts a huge amount of power then. Mm-hmm. What can be done about it, do you think? Even if it's only a minority of people in the creative industries who want to feel free to think differently, do we need to be looking at alternative institutions and alternative music magazines and publications? I mean, how can you get past this? Gatekeepers. Yeah, well, we're here.
Yeah, sorry that was a longer clip, but I don't know. I guess there's just so much good stuff in there. I didn't want to leave it out. But yeah, all of that is absolutely true. And it just kind of comes down to the problem. And this is why I think this affects everyone. And this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it can affect Christian music. Now the thing is, and this isn't really a problem, it's just a natural thing. The music industry is completely filled with creatives, naturally. Creatives like me. And the thing is that creatives, by majority, are usually pretty liberal-minded. And studies show that most creatives tend to lean more, like left-leaning, maybe a bit conservative. I mean, not conservative, progressive. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Technically, even though I have a lot of conservative beliefs, I tend to lean conservative politically, conservative religiously. I consider myself liberally minded because I wasn't always conservative. I'm still a lot of my decisions are emotion based, and that's kind of a lot of us creatives and a lot of us liberal minded people. So we tend to react to things emotionally. We're very in touch with our emotions because that's important in art and music especially. So that's just kind of a natural thing, that the music industry is full of people that are, maybe more left-leaning. That's not the problem. The problem is when, Winston's talking about these gatekeepers, that there are people who are like, if you don't believe the things that we believe because we're surrounded by people that believe the same things that we do. And so we think that this must be the right way to think. And if you have any dissenting views, then you're wrong. And it could go as far as people saying like, oh, you're fascist or you're racist, and you get shut out. You get blacklisted. You get canceled, so to speak. It's a real thing. And that's the real problem. And it's hard for, say, an artist like me. I mean, I'm not trying to play the victim card or anything, but there are others out there like me and Winston who maybe see things differently. We may feel things the same, but we see things a little differently and maybe have some opinions that don't really follow along with the not the narrative, the ideology, the common ideology. And so it can be very isolating and scary. So we're going to keep talking more about that. We're already an hour into this show. Was kind of planning for at least an hour and a half for this show. So we'll see how it goes. But I wanted to talk about how this is important to Christian faith and like Christian music. And Winston actually, I believe that's the next clip. Winston talks about his faith and how important it is for him and how it has been important for him with the recent events. And so let's just watch that.
Certainly for me, my faith has played a big part in this period of my life. And actually the week before making the final decision, I was pretty much planted in my local Catholic church around the corner from the house because it felt like a really big, it's been a bloody big moment for me. I think that's maybe why I can imagine perhaps people, that's probably why after a while the apology was bothering me like it did, particularly that I'd felt like I'd been participating in that lie that we already talked about. I couldn't square those things in my conscience.
Oh, right. Yeah, we're just going to keep watching.
If I can quote the great American theologian of our time, Kanye West, he said this a couple of years ago, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. He said, "Fear God and you will fear nothing else." And I think that I love that, because for me, I do fear God. And I think it's true that if you fear God sincerely, then you won't fear worldly issues, worldly problems. I fear God and I still get worried plenty of the time. And so I'm not going to pretend I'm have you read Corrie ten Boom, the sister in Corrie ten Boom, Nolly, I think it is, who's faith is so strong in the Lord that she's quite happy she'll tell the truth all the time, even when the Nazis come into her apartment and ask where are the Jews, and she goes, "Oh, they're hiding in the cupboard," because she can't lie. And you think, what? But then so they take the. Have you read The Hiding Place? And
no.
I mean, good luck not crying when you do read it. But the Jews that she kind of gives away, and that night get rescued by wherever they take her to, and they get rescued. Her faith is so strong in the law that she must tell the truth. That's, I guess, an extreme version of telling the truth. And but in that sense, I'm not sure I'm Nolly Ten Boom strong in faith, but it's important.
So I think that's awesome, and truly inspiring for me. I think Winston is a brave man. I look up to him because right now he's kind of the patron saint for creatives like me who believe in God, who love God, and have all these different opinions, and yet feels a bit nervous about sharing them. And it's just super inspiring for me. And I think he should be inspiring for any other artist who happens to be a Christian, for them to, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but it's just super inspiring for me. And watching him and what he's been doing has been very, very inspiring and has encouraged me. Because obviously he didn't just leave the band and then like that was it. He was true to his word. He's been speaking out about these things, and writing. He continues to write articles, and now, and this is how it's going to be a little bit more topical. You're like, oh, how much more topical can we get? Well, I'll tell you. Joe Rogan. Talking about Joe Rogan on this podcast. I mean, we're still talking about Winston, and I'm not really even going to go too deep into Joe Rogan, but it's relevant to what we're talking about because Winston has also spoken out against this. And also, Winston, I should mention, has his own podcast now. And it's actually the reason why I've titled this episode Winston Marshall Really Does Matter, because his podcast is called Marshall Matters. So you guys can check it out. He brings on artists like him and me who may have different opinions that are not so easy to talk about. And it's just kind of continuing the conversation, and opening it up to artists and creatives like that. And now he's gone on. I know he wrote an article about the whole Joe Rogan thing. I haven't read it, but he was on a show to talk about it. And for those of you who don't know, so of course most people know about Joe Rogan. He has like the most popular podcast of all time currently, the Joe Rogan Experience, where he interviews people. He's kind of like the new Larry David, but with an edge to him. And I guess he had a couple guests on that had some interesting views on, well, not views, but like interesting things about the COVID. YouTube, please don't flag me for talking about these things. I'm sure there's going to be a thing in my video with like COVID-19 information. So he got in trouble because these people that he had on had some people labeled it misinformation, and I don't really know anything about it. I didn't watch those episodes. I actually don't watch Joe Rogan that much, only when he has like a guest on that I like and am interested in, but I don't watch him consistently. But I think he's cool, personally, just so that you know where I'm coming from. And so he got in trouble with that. Neil Young, you know, keep on rocking in the free world. He rose a stunk, and he's like, I'm going to pull because Joe Rogan is exclusively Spotify. He's exclusively on Spotify. They like paid him millions of dollars to be on the show. Neil Young said, Spotify, it's either me or him. Because I, raising a stink about misinformation and all that. And he eventually did. And mostly everyone is just like, well, bye. Not to be mean. I mean, it's perfectly within the right. And there have been other people who have called out Joe Rogan. And now not just the misinformation, but now there's like this whole compilation video of Joe Rogan saying the N-word. Mind you, not in a derogatory way, but more in a, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but not in a derogatory way. He's more just saying, like, people say the N-word, something like that. Well, I am not at all condoning the use of the N-word. I mean, I don't think we should be calling people names anyways. But that's not really what Joe Rogan was doing. But still, people rose a stunk about it. And people are calling for him to be deplatformed. And I, of course, have my opinions about that. But we're going to hear what Winston has to say about that.
All communities are prone to some degree of homogeneity. I think that's a given.
Yeah.
And that's forgivable. It's what Orwell called groupthink. But though it might be forgivable, it's not good. Mm-hmm. So in the creative industries, on various topics, usually divisive topics, soon enough, an orthodox stance is taken. So, for example, on Brexit, even though the country was pretty evenly split, the music industry, British music industry, was almost entirely in favour of the EU.
Yes.
And there was an open letter in 2018 signed by pretty much everyone, sort of condemning it and wanting to turn it round. And the few artists on that particular topic who were against the EU, I think it was Sir Ringo Starr, Roger Daltrey, to name but a couple,
yeah.
Were notable because they were much older and basically had the resources that they could say what they wanted.
Yeah, they didn't care, exactly.
Whereas I suspect younger artists on a topic like that should probably keep stum in case they were to face backlash.
I mean, I definitely felt that. I mean, in the comedy world, there were maximum of 5 comedians who were openly pro-Brexit. I was one of those, and so I definitely felt that at that time. But within the arts generally, I think there was a survey with something like 97% of artists. And that can't be true, right? That's the first thing to say. That can't be real.
Well, it might be true. It might be that...
Do you think?
That, again, I do think that, I mean, this is what Tocqueville talked about in The Tyranny of the Majority. I do think it's probable if a lot of artists, they have this similar personality traits, mm-hmm. It is possible that they land on the similar spot on various issues. Again, even if that's the case, doesn't mean it's good. Now, when you came out on Brexit within the comedy world, did you have pushback on that?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. What were the repercussions? What's an example?
Lost an awful lot of friends.
Were there any professional?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are certain places that wouldn't book me from there on in and that kind of thing. But I'm not trying to pretend I'm a victim.
But your business took a hit.
Yes, yes. So that's why I'm raising scepticism about the idea that the stats are right, because I think lots of people knew that if they were open about their opinion on that. But it's not just that, it's just about politics generally. You have people who are sort of in the closet about various opinions because of what they might fear might happen to them.
Well, look what's happening, or what happened with Joe Rogan last week is he's a chat show host, but he's also a comedian, so you can say he's an artist.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of these musicians and various artists boycotting Spotify, which is legitimate. Like to boycott is an exercise of their freedom of association, freedom of speech. That's absolutely legitimate. But what's curious about it, and this is the crux, is that they said, take him down or we will leave. Right. They wouldn't just say we're leaving, they say take him down or we will leave. So they want his speech silenced.
That's the distinction, isn't it?
That's the distinction.
Because when people criticise Joni Mitchell, say, or Neil Young, the standard rebuttal was, well, but if you care about freedom of speech, they should be able to say what they want. And they should. But the distinction is that they're calling for someone else's silence.
Oh, okay. I hope that I stopped it at the right point. There is more. Sorry, I have long clips, and I apologize. Sorry, I'm gonna get back into frame. I keep like get away from the camera, but it's absolutely true. And he's kind of talking about all the things that we've already talked about. And Winston is like, yeah, I've experienced this myself, and so he wants to talk about it, and it's absolutely true. There is a problem when, like free speech is a real thing. I'm a big component of that. And, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell are exercising their right for freedom of speech. But the problem is that they're trying to silence someone. And, yeah, I think we might just continue to watch the rest of the clip, but yeah, let's keep watching.
It's a big distinction. If someone the size of Rogan, and he's absolutely huge. Yeah. I mean, his listenership and viewing numbers are 10 times that of the mainstream media and, and the competitors on CNN, etc. If someone of that magnitude can be silenced, what's it like for the young artists who are the young comedians, and what can we possibly imagine an environment is for young artists to create if they risk losing so much in the process? It's untenable.
Let's just keep watching the rest of the clip.
But that's the point, isn't it? That if there are a sort of set of rules of the opinions that you can have within a creative industry, then as you say, it must cause people to be... Because artists, by their nature, think outside the box, right?
They have to.
And yet, all of these things that we're describing seem very much in line with establishment thought, don't they? I mean, Brexit's a good example because it was the Tory government that were pushing for it.
Yeah, and after Neil Young and the other artists...
And Joni Mitchell.
And Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and in this side of the pond, Stuart Lee, after they made their stand against the Joe Rogan Experience, the White House then followed suit and sort of agreed and said... what is it? What do they call it? Misinformation, something. Which is the kind of the term that the Biden era seems to use in the same way the Trump era used fake news.
Yes.
They use that. So basically, these huge artists are completely in tow and in line with the government.
And yet, some of them are old hippies. People like Joni Mitchell. You'd think they were anti-establishment. And now you've got people. Yeah, exactly. So, what would you say then to young creative people in this situation? And what can they do?
I think a return to good faith discourse needs to come, and I personally believe in more speech, not less speech, as an answer. And if these are bad ideas that Rogan is talking about, and if Neil Young has the answers, let's hear him. Let's have him on a Spotify podcast.
All right, you might have to give me a second because my camera just went out. Okay, so hopefully my battery is going out. It's not been on for this long. I didn't really know what to expect, but okay. So that's absolutely true. I'm gonna try to be as fast as I can. Still got a bit to go for this show. Ah, gosh dang it! All right, we don't have camera right now. I apologize. I shouldn't have had the camera on for so long before. We're gonna put this thing on right now. Or Or maybe we can get my webcam on. It's not going to look good, but I apologize. Okay. Now you're going to see my messy room. Gosh dang it. Okay, hold on. Gonna bring me down just a little bit. All right, so what he's saying is absolutely true, and it is a problem. Like as we've already mentioned before, what is a young person to like me to do when in our culture it's encouraged for like it's okay for people to try to silence people. And that is a huge problem that is not only a problem for me, but I think for just art in general. And I think that affects everyone. No kidding. Not just artists, but all of society. And because it is no good when it's okay for art to be controlled. It does no one any good. And that is a bad sign for society. I mean, look at history. Look at any time in history, any place where art was being controlled in some way, censored. That usually was a bad sign for that particular, culture or society. I mean, like, look at the USSR, communist countries, just any place where, you heard stories of certain artists or expressionists being jailed because they were being open about what they believed, and they were speaking out against those who were in authority at the time. It does no one good. And like, I truly believe that art expresses what the people are feeling. When you look at the overall spectrum of art in our society today, you can usually see the heart of what everyone is feeling and thinking. Music and entertainment is usually the expression of what everyone is feeling, usually. And it's dangerous when that is controlled. It's dangerous when we give people the authority to censor and to control and to stop and to deplatform. And I know it might not seem like a big thing because, like, Joe Rogan is just a podcaster. Like, well, first of all, thanks. I think that podcasting is it's kind of a form of art. It is definitely a form of expression because it's an opportunity, it's a platform for people to be able to talk. And so it's dangerous when we can say, when we call for someone to be deplatformed just because they have differing opinions or they do something that we don't like. I mean, it would be different if it was something illegal. And of course, we have to have some laws. If Joe Rogan killed someone on his podcast, then I mean, that's not even an issue of deplatforming. That's an issue of being arrested. You should go to prison for that. But other than that, I don't believe that there should be any, like, I don't think there should be any rules. That's like anti-art. And while I will always be on here, on this show, and on my videos, calling out people for like saying something in their art, in their song, in their music that I don't agree with, I have that freedom to do that. But I will never call for anyone to be deplatformed or for anyone to be canceled, because everyone should have the freedom to speak out and say their piece, say their opinion. I will, I'll criticize Toby Mac for a song like I'm Sorry, but I, of course, would never want him to be canceled or his music to be pulled off streaming. Speaking of DC Talk, I will criticize Kevin Max for his progressive Christian beliefs, but I will never say that he shouldn't have a voice and he shouldn't have a platform to say those things. Because that's just a slippery slope. Especially, Christianity has had a history of being silenced and being shut down. And I don't think we want to go back to that. Especially these days when, hardcore Christian beliefs are becoming less and less popular these days. Especially for me. And I think it's in the best interests of everyone that we stop calling for people to be deplatformed or canceled. And, voice your opinions, of course. I love how Winston was like, let's give Neil Young a podcast for him to be able to say what he wants to say. And we need to be going back to, he's right, about going back to good faith conversations. That's how we deal with things. That's how we should deal with things. You have a problem with someone's opinion. You have a problem with Joe Rogan. You have a problem with Winston Marshall, or even me. Talk about it. That's usually how ideologies are formed, how social norms are formed, is because society gets together and they talk about those things. And that's how it happens. So let's get back to that. Let's keep the conversation open, just like what Winston is trying to do. Let's stop witch hunting. Let's stop getting angry whenever someone says something that we don't agree with. And let's also stop labeling those kinds of things what they're not. Like things like misinformation. If that's not demonizing of people, I don't know what is. But yeah, I think that's basically all I have to say. I get down off my soapbox. This is why I wanted to talk about it, because like it's important, especially and for music in general. But so that affects Christian music. It could be absolutely relevant. Like say someone like John Cooper, who's been controversial, he could be deplatformed, but we shouldn't call for that. And I truly appreciate Winston for what he's standing for. And I highly recommend Marshall Matters. on podcasts. That's a good recommendation for you to check out. Let's just keep this conversation open. Okay. So I had some other things planned. Just a few. I'm just going to get through some other things real quick. The main topic is over. So thanks for listening to that. In a couple of weeks, I kind of wanted to talk about Gavi. That's a topical thing. Everything going on with him. And if you want to know more about that, you can either look it up or you can tune in to the next episode in a couple of weeks. I'll probably be talking about Gavi and everything related to that. I wanted to do just a little quick review / recommendation because this is a music thing. And I wanted to talk about something that I liked that I think you guys should check out. So, oh yeah. I was supposed to have this the camera up, and since it's gone, things are different here, so I apologize. So the album that I want to recommend and kind of review very quickly is Ronnie Martin's From the I always do this. From the Womb of the Morning, the Dew of Your Youth Will Be Yours. I know it's a mouthful. It's almost as long as you should check out the Chariots From the Dew. Everything Is Alive album. Just check out the full title of that. That's like the longest album title I've ever seen. But yeah, so some of you may be familiar with back in the old days of Tooth and Nail Records, there was a group or music project sort of called Joy Electric. They were pretty big. They had a good following. And that was mainly the work of Ronnie Martin. In fact, for most of Joy Electric's existence, it was just a solo thing. And so now, after many, many years, Joy Electric hasn't released anything in years. Ronnie Martin is now back and better than ever with some new music. And it basically is a Joy Electric album for all intents and purposes. It's just it just doesn't have the name Joy Electric attached to it. It's just Ronnie Martin. And it came out a month ago or so. And I had also been listening to the singles that he had released on it, and now I've been really enjoying this album. It's basically like Joy Electric fans will love this, I believe, because it basically is a Joy Electric album. But the difference is that, so like in Joy Electric's older, like other music, the drums, everything, by the way, is like analog synthesizers. He's a purist with his music. It's all analog synthesizers and his voice. And he's a genius at making good music with just analog synthesizers. But the thing with his older music, his drums were just kind of that kind of sound, which worked. But for this, he seems to have gotten some better drum sounds. So it's big and bombastic, and I love it. And it has kind of affected the whole sound of it. So some of these songs on here are just straight up bangers. And so it's like Joy Electric, but with much more. But everything else is kind of the same. Like the lyrics, their lyricism, he's always been great at that. And the lyrics are all based off of Proverbs, passages from Proverbs. And so, and you know, Ronnie's voice sounds great in it. So yeah, if you're a fan of like electronic music, I highly recommend this. It's not like EDM, but it's just some good electronic music with some great lyrics, and it's one of my favorite albums so far of the year. I mean, granted, we're only at the beginning of the year, but I think it's definitely going to be in my top 10 list for 2022. So I highly recommend it. Ronnie Martin's From the Womb of the Morning, the Dew of Your Youth Will Be Yours. And you can check it out on most music platforms. I've been listening to it on Spotify myself. So, yeah, that's what I got there. Usually, I'm trying to get a Q&A segment for this show. So no one left any questions, so that's fine. It's the first episode, and from the looks of it, only a few people have been checking in on the live stream, which I highly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for the support of the channel that you guys have been giving me. I saw on my Facebook memories that it was 2 years ago that I had reached my first 100 subscribers, which was a big deal for me. And now we're over 240. And so that's just awesome. I mean, I can't imagine 240 people in one room watching me. That's just a crazy thought. But yeah. So we're going to try to get a Q&A segment for the show. So if you have any questions at all about anything, you can ask for my opinion, for my advice on something, or if there's something about me that you want to know. I'm trying to not make this all about like, ask me questions because I'm such a big deal. No, it's more just like I want to keep the conversation open. I want to keep my connection with you guys open on this show. I think it would be fun. So you can ask me anything. You can ask me, am I a dog person or a cat person? Or do I wear boxers or briefs? I don't know why you would want to know that. I'm sorry for putting that image in your mind. Just anything at all. Maybe you want my opinion on some music related thing. Just anything at all. And you can leave a question in the comments of this YouTube video. Like I said, preface it with question, semicolon, and just type out the question, And yeah, so maybe next episode we'll have a Q&A segment. I'm going to be fighting for it. And yeah, I think that's what I got. I had a whole thing. Get this going. I have like an outro. I think that's working. Yeah, okay, so there might be a little bit of echo here. I'm trying to figure it out. But anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out the I'm Clifford Today show. This is it. This is the end. Be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I'll give you a shout out on the show if you leave a rating and review. Now you can leave a rating on Spotify. I don't think you can leave a review, but you can leave a rating on Spotify. So I appreciate the support. On Spotify, in the episode I'll always have questions or polls on the Spotify episode, so go check those out. It'd be fun if you guys interacted with those, and we'll talk about those in the next episode. Also check out Podwood Forecast on all podcast platforms. This is where me and my buddy Mitchell talk about things that we like, movies, music, video games, etc. Yeah, go check that out. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. and you know, whatever you guys can do to support the show. I'm working on a new video as we speak. I already talked about it in the announcement video last time, but I'm still working on it, and it's coming out. So, yeah, that's, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much, and I'm excited for the rest of the episodes and what that will be like. Just remember that I'm Clifford today, and you're not. See you in a couple weeks. Later.